Hi my swooners, I hope you're having a great month, week or day and that positivity is coming your way. For this week's video, since this is the last day of 2023, I thought it'd be really fun to do a 2023 reading wrapped. And I've seen a lot of people do it and I really enjoy seeing how many books people read, what genre they read most of, what they discovered, what books they like, what books they didn't like. I just really enjoy seeing that, so I thought it'd be really fun to do it myself. And this year I had the help of an amazing spreadsheet that I found on Etsy that helped me basically organize my reading and put all of the data in for me and tell me how many and tell me the percentages of everything. So that was really fun. So let's get started. Just a fair warning that if you see me look up a lot, it's because of the fact that I have the information in front of me, and it's not just because I'm daydreaming away, okay? Alright, so this was a good year. It wasn't the best year I've had in reading, but it was a good year. I read 170 books overall with a total page count of 43,036 pages and 6 hours listened on a audiobook. So yeah, it was a pretty good year, not my best, in the sense like I've read more in years past, but considering all that happened this year, I'm actually amazed that I still read 170 books. So thumbs up for me, I'm really happy with that. And then I looked into monthly reads, so how many books I read per month. As we can see, December is my weakest month, or I only read, oh wait, no, I'm wrong. September I only read 5 books, but I think I actually know why I only read 5 books in September, and it was because in August I read 37 because I was doing a readathon, and so the readathon just like knocked it out of me. I didn't want to read a book. I didn't want to pick up a book for a very long time because I read so many books in August. But overall there was like an average, and I really enjoyed seeing this as well. There seems to be like an average of 10 to 15 books I read per month, which is really helpful because it means that next year when I'm planning my monthly TBRs, I'll be able to be like, okay, on average I read 10 books a month, therefore let me pick out the 10 books that I definitely want to read this month, because I did find that I am very much a mood reader. I plan monthly TBRs. I say to myself, I'm going to read this book and this book and this book this month, and then I find another book, I'm just not in the mood to read the book that I planned out, and next minute you know my monthly TBR doesn't match up with what I've actually read that month. So knowing the fact that I only read, like, my average is 10 books, maybe from now on I'll do like, okay, this is 3 books in my TBR that I am going to make sure I read, and the rest will just be mood reads, you know, like stuff that has popped up or stuff that I was interested in, because now I know that on average 10 to 12, I believe. Yes, probably. Sorry, I'm terrible at math, so I'm assuming on average it's usually 10 to 12, but now we know, so I'm really happy with that, and I think it's really, again, this was really interesting to see. All right, format. Now, as you can see, I read 2 graphic novels, 3 mangas, 118 novels, and 47 novellas. Which is interesting to me how many novellas I read. Just because I tend to not really look at page numbers when it comes to books. So the fact that novellas were like a lot was a big percentage. overall was kind of shocking. But then what was also really shocking was how I didn't read a lot of manga this year. But I know I bought manga this year, so I just bought manga and then never read it. So that's something I want to work on, because I don't know how that happened. C'est la vie, c'est la vie. Okay, and then we have source material. It wouldn't be shocking for anyone. Well, this was not surprising that ebooks are my go-to. I read 137 ebooks, 32 physical books, and 1 audiobook. Now, I'm not surprised with the ebooks at all. I realized that the reason why I turned to ebooks is because I can highlight in an ebook, and I can find the highlights later on fairly quickly. Whilst with a physical book, I have to note it down somewhere. If I like a quote, what page is it on, what chapter, and then I have to copy it out myself when I want to do any sort of posts. So it wasn't shocking that I read in the format of ebooks the most. It wasn't shocking at all. However, I will say what is shocking is I know for a fact that I bought a lot of physical books last year, throughout this year, right? I bought a lot of physical books this year. So that's something I'm going to call myself out on, because next year I'm either going to say to myself, look, you're not buying a book unless you know you're going to read the physical copy, or you read the physical copy. Next year I'm making it a priority to get through my physical TBR, because that's mad. Also, what is also mad is that I've had this subscription, a subscription to Audible for at least 7 months. Actually no, August, September, October, November, December. For at least 5 months. I've had a subscription to Audible for at least 5 months, and yet I've only read or listened to 1 audiobook. No, because I'm not deleting my Audible subscription, because there's plenty of books I've heard are amazing to listen to. For example, I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jennifer McCarthy. Sorry if I say that wrong. Apparently listening to her audiobook is amazing. That audiobook is amazing. I actually have it. I just need to sit down and listen to it. So again, next year, we already know. Come on now, this needs to be fixed. Again, not surprising seeing the fact that I read a lot of my books on ebooks. It's also not surprising that the number one where I read this books is from Kindle Unlimited. I'm actually quite happy with that. With the amount of money that Amazon is charging me for Kindle Unlimited, I am very glad that I'm making use of it. So 111 Kindle Unlimited books, brilliant, love it. I also think it's very interesting that I own 57 books, and I know half of that number, or even more than half of that number, is from ebooks. But I'm also not surprised, considering the fact that I constantly look out for those Kindle daily deals, and I find a bunch of books for 99p. So again, not surprising. One borrowed though, and shout out to my sister, because I borrowed a book from her. That's the only person I borrowed from. I know next year I'm borrowing hella books from her, so watch out sis, because I'm definitely borrowing more books. And like I said, with Audible, I am going to listen to more Audibles. I'm telling you this now, I'm listening to more audiobooks. I will hold myself accountable next year, I swear. Well, this slide just really speaks for itself, innit? So out of all the genres in the world, I read mostly romance. Not surprising for a girl whose YouTube channel is called Timeless.swoons, but I read 99.4% of the books I read in 2023 was romance, and one book was poetry. And I'm gonna pat myself on the back for the one book that's poetry. Okay? Because I can't even say I'm mad at it, because everyone in my life and all my friends know that I read purely romance. But I will say that next year I kind of hope to branch out a bit more in what I read, only because as much as I love the romance genre, and that will always be like my number one genre, there are other books that I feel would interest me or have been recommended that sound amazing, but I hesitate to sort of step out of my comfort zone when it comes to I kind of hesitate to step out of my comfort zone when it comes to genres. With romance, I know what I'm getting. I know what's like the formatting. I know what's gonna happen. With any other genre, you kind of can't tell, or I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy it. So that's another thing I want to do next year. I really want to focus on branching out with my genres, not because I'm ever gonna give up on romance or stop being a romance reader. That's never gonna happen. Romance will always be my number one genre, but I do want to sort of spread out and read a larger range of genres in 2024. Again, not surprising, a lot of the books I read, the audience is adult. So 157 of the books I read were adult. New adult, I only read 8 books, and young adult, 5. Again, not surprising considering the fact that I do love a good spicy read, so I would expect the higher the spice, the more adult it is. I'm not surprised by this at all. I can't really even say that I want to change my audience or the target audience of a book, because I find that when it comes to books now, due to the fact that I am in my late 20s, I'm 27, I'm going to lean more towards adult books. I actually want more books about women who are older, past the age of 40, falling in love. I generally really want books like that, because I read one book like that in 2023 and I loved reading it. I loved reading it and being reminded of the fact that it's not only just young people who fall in love. Whilst young love has been so romanticized, we should also be romanticizing love later down the line, well, I want books with an older female character. So I can't say I'm going to change my audience next year, and I can't say I'm surprised with this, so I'm happy. I'm going to say this right now, I am so proud of the fact that I've read a lot of books that are self-published this year. I read 100 books that are self-published, 41 books that were indie, and 20 traditional. I'm not gonna lie, I'm very happy with that. I realized this year while talking to people, and this is something that my sister pointed out, I read a lot of self-published and indie books. I lean more towards self-published and independent publishing, and indie books. I just lean more towards it. Maybe it's the stories, maybe it's the writing. I don't know what it is. I think it's the stories and the writing, basically, that I really lean towards, because I love a good self-published book and an indie book. And it's not even I actively search for it either. That was something that I found interesting. When I was looking at my spreadsheet, I realized how many times I put down oh, this book is self-published, oh, this book is indie. I don't actively look for self-published or indie books. Those are just the ones that appeal to me the most. So I'm very proud of that, because I think support authors. I love supporting authors. I love supporting authors who are self-publishing or independent, because they need the support, and their writing is amazing. Like, a lot of the time, like I said, the story, the writing, the character development, all of it, it's just so good. So I'm not surprised, and I'm very happy with this. Author stats, which I also thought was very interesting. I read 86 new authors this year. 86 new authors who I've never read before. I've read 86 books by them, and I'm not gonna lie, again, this is something I'm actually quite happy with. And the reason why I said that is because in life, like, generally, like, a thing about me in life is I tend to stick with the stuff that I know. You know, like, when it comes to TV shows and it comes to movies, I stick with the stuff that I know. It isn't until someone else has convinced me, or somebody else has, like, sort of talked to me about this book, movie, TV show, and they said, oh no, I think you like it, that I take a chance. But this year, it seemed like I took a chance on a lot of authors, and in my personal life and in the books that I read. So I'm very happy. And what's even better is the fact that a lot of the authors that are new to me this year have become some, like, my auto-buy authors. Like, I will definitely do a video on my auto-buy authors in January, because it's insane to me how many great authors I have never heard of before this year that are now like, every single time a book comes out, like, I will make time to read that book. So I'm very happy with that. 78 I've read before, and I read 6 debut authors. Like I said, I'm very happy with this. I want to continue this. I want to discover more authors next year, and add some more auto-buy authors to my ever-growing list, because, yeah, like I said, I just support authors, and I think every single time there is a author I've never read before and I just fall in love with their writing, it just enhances and really emphasizes and really just reminds me of why I love reading so much. So this is based on how many books I read of the authors this year. So in third place we have Alexandria House. I love her. If you don't know her books, she wrote the McCain Brothers series, which is by far one of my favorite series ever. Like, I've reread plenty of those. I've reread like a lot of those books in that series. I'm not gonna lie, I think there was so many I reread. She's an amazing author, makes beautiful romances, and if you haven't checked out any of her books, I would highly recommend, because she just has a way of writing that is insane. Then Nicola Davidson, she writes historical romances that are heavy on the spice. Again, I fell in love with her writing, I fell in love with her books. The first book I read by her was Her Virgin Duke, and it was like a yes for me. I think the reason why she's second in this is because she writes a lot of novellas, so I just went through her novella list, like all the novellas she had written, and that's the reason why it's so high. But it doesn't take away from the fact that her books are actually really fun to read. And it will come to no surprise to anyone who knows me that Regine Abel is number one. I am obsessed with her books, and this is how obsessed with it. I got my sister to read it, and she loves it. So, and if you know my sister, she doesn't read monster romances. but she enjoys it. So that's how amazing Regina Abel is. She's one of my favorite authors. I cannot get enough of her work. Her writing, the characters, her imagination is insane. She somehow comes up with a way of making each book so interesting and so captivating in different ways, yet they're all somehow connected as well. If you haven't read any of Regina Abel's books, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go and read one of them now, because you won't regret it. It's a great comfort read. It's a great I just want to read a sci-fi romance, crime mating agency. So it's either I read a lot of amazing books this year, or I'm being way too lenient with my rating. Either way, I somehow gave 61 books 4-star and 57 books 5-star, with the average of 3.9. So this year I actually read a lot of good books. I read a lot of good books. I read a lot of books that were out the park for me, amazing, or books that I was like, oh, I can see myself reading this author again. Again, it might be because I'm too lenient and too nice, or it might be because I know what I like and so I look for those books. Like I said, next year I want to take a little bit more risks, but again, this reading year has been great. Like, looking at it, it's been a really good year, considering the fact that my ratings, I have so many like 5-star books now, and I have so many books that are like 4 stars as well. I've had a great reading year. Like, I've had a great reading year when you look at what I've scored. The average of my ratings is 3.9 as well. So that's really high, considering the fact that I've read so many books, and 3.9 is where it's at. I'm generally quite shocked, but also happy with how many great books I read this year. So, alright, finally, to end this reading wrapped, I am going to make 4 2024 resolutions. Now, there's gonna be more resolutions when it comes to the books, but these are my top 4. These are the things that I have said to myself I am definitely going to do in 2024. I'm going to hold myself accountable and do this. So my first one is I want to read/listen to 5 audiobooks. Like I said, I've had an Audible subscription for months now, and I'm not utilizing it, and I really want to read more audiobooks because I've heard so many great things about audiobooks. And instead of me watching love and hip hop fight compilations on YouTube, I'm going to pick up an audiobook instead. So that is one of my book resolutions. Now, number 2 is I want to read 5 non-fiction books. I work at a scientific publisher. I'm surrounded by non-fiction books all day. So much so that I actually can take home some non-fiction books that they just have, and I've been told, oh yeah, you can take it home. So I have plenty of non-fiction books that sound fascinating and interesting and engaging. I have those books, and yet I do not read them. I have them, they're in my library, they're in my collection, I just haven't read them. And next year, I promise myself I'm reading 5 of those books. There are 5 non-fiction books I swear I've had for years. I said I was going to read them. Have I picked them up? No. Have I looked at them? No. Did I realize I even still had them? No. I only realized when I was cleaning up my library. That is shameful. That's shameful. I'm sorry, that is shameful. I'm holding my hands up. It's shameful. And I'm reading 5 non-fiction books next year. I swear. Doing it. Holding myself accountable. Now, my third resolution is 3 books a week. I want to try and read 3 books a week. Just because towards the end of 2023, my reading really hit. It plummeted. It went, you know, it exploded. I didn't read a lot. And I think setting myself a target each week just really not only holds me accountable, but I really want to get back into reading a steady amount each week. And just like, again, get back into the flow of reading and get back into reading on a regular basis, because there's so many books that I wanted to read this year and I just didn't have time to read, or I didn't get around to reading, and that broke my heart when I realized that there were so many books I wanted to read and I just didn't. So 3 books a week. Then finally, I want to read a 600 plus page book next year. I read a lot of novellas. I read a lot of books that are under 300 pages. And that's partly due to me just finding them interesting and me just falling for that book, or me just thinking, oh, this is an interesting book. Doesn't really matter that it's only 200 pages. It sounds interesting, let me read it. But there's also a thing of like, I don't plan time out to read a 600 page book. Like, 600 page book would take me a week or such to read, and I'm kind of hesitant to do that. I'm always a little bit hesitant to do that because I'm like, what if I get bored and then I'm just going to be stuck in this book and I don't want to have to finish this book I'm not interested in, and I don't like DNFing a lot, but I can do it, so what should I do? But next year I said to myself, in 2024, 600 page plus book. At least try it. At least try and read a 600 plus page book. I have read books this year that was 500 pages, and a lot of them I really enjoyed. But for some reason, the minute I see 6, I say no. You know, the minute I see 600 pages, I just say no. And I want to change that next year. I really want to read a very good 600 page romance book and go from there and see what I find out about myself and what traits I like in books and the rest, because I really enjoyed doing my 2023 Wrapped because I found out a lot about myself, and so 2024 I kind of want to challenge myself a bit and just see what else I can do, like see what other challenges I can do, you know. All right, that is it. That is the end of my 2023 reading Wrapped, and that is the end of 2023 as well. 2023 has been a year. I've had a lot of downs and ups. It's been an emotional roller coaster, and I think I have come out of 2023 a lot stronger. And 2024 is the year of continuing to change myself, accept challenges for myself, and have more adventures. And that means reading more books, going on more adventures, and uploading more as well. I hope you had a great 2023, and I hope you have an amazing 2024, and I will see you next year. Bye.